So, welcome to the Profit by Design podcast. David, it is so good to have you back with us.
It feels like a lifetime ago. 4 years goes in the blink of an eye.
It sure does. So, I want to share with our listeners a little bit about you and why you're here today and why we're even doing this, because this is pretty special. So, David Jenyns, it has been on the Profit by Design podcast. He is the author of a classic book, Systemology. We recommend this over and over to our clients in our Better Business, Better Life program at Tap the Potential. It's a great accompaniment to the 4-week vacation, because if you want to take a 4-week vacation, you have to have A players on your team and systems. And the A players, this might be a spoiler alert, but your A players can help you put the systems in place. It doesn't have to be the business owner, right, David?
Yeah, 100%.
I learned that from you, and that was like, oh, that's an epiphany. So good. So let me share a little bit about David. David Jenyns is an experienced entrepreneur who sold the Melbourne Cricket Ground in his early 20s and founded Melbourne SEO Services. He systemized himself out of that business in 2016 and founded Systemology to help business owners implement systems to scale their business. Today, he supports a growing community of certified systemologists, delivers workshops, keynote addresses, hosts a podcast, and is on a mission to free business owners worldwide from daily operations. And I am one of those business owners who has been freed. So thank you, David. David, I know that you and I are on the podcast, we have talked in depth already about systems and why they're important in a business. I want to give you a chance to share from your perspective now, 4 years later, why should we care about systems in the business?
I think the biggest reason is what is about to happen with AI and the AI revolution. So the way that I think about it, systems and processes that you document today will become the programming of the machines tomorrow. So you need to instruct the AI and the robots to do things, and you need to make sure that they're essential tasks that add value to your business, that are part of the delivery of your core product or service. So it's more important than ever to get very clear on what those tasks are and how they're to be completed and to what standard. Because one day you'll take those SOPs and you'll feed it into a very intelligent AI and it will execute on a whole bunch of those things. So it's probably the most important time in history to start systemizing, because the companies that do that will get access to, like, effectively, like, the aim of systems is to delegate down to lower cost, typically less skilled labor to complete tasks. So the lowest cost labor here is going to be the AI. So and the companies that embrace that will just shoot ahead in leaps and bounds.
Okay, my mind is blown. Like, I did not expect you to say that about AI. And I've never thought about AI in that way. I mean, obviously, I know AI can simplify things, take things off of our plate, free us up to focus on our highest value contributions. Our humanity really is what we're left with. And that's an incredible contribution from us humans in businesses. And I've never thought about, oh my gosh, you can't effectively use AI if you don't have systems in your business.
So a lot of people, they'll get distracted by AI. The new AI tool pops up and they go, ooh, I can get the AI to create me 1,000 cat videos of a cat holding a sign with my business logo on it. And then I can have the AI posted across all of my social media. And they think just because I can, that they should. And they get distracted chasing these shiny objects, when really, when you approach AI, you need to say, how can AI help me do what I'm already doing faster, cheaper, and better? And
Yes.
you narrow in, and that, to your point, is exactly why systems and processes are critical, because you're identifying what is most important to be done a particular way inside your business.
That's incredible. So I'm an advocate, and I'm a living, breathing advocate of making our time worth $10,000 an hour. And as business owners, we tend to get bogged down in doing the $10, $100, $1,000 an hour tasks. And one of the things that has allowed us to grow at Tap the Potential is to make sure that not just me, but everyone on our team is looking at their $10,000 an hour contribution to the business. And so a $10,000 an hour activity, the definition of it ties right into what you just shared. And that is, it's when you're doing something that makes everything else easier or unnecessary, and you are working from your strengths. And what you're making easier or unnecessary, it may be something that serves you or helps you, or it may be somebody else on your team or clients, or something in the business. So AI, when you're using systems to program the AI for the business to make everything else easier or unnecessary, it frees you up to focus on those higher and higher value activities. And what I think is so fascinating about this is when we bring on A players on our teams, they don't want to do the rote, repetitive work for very long. Like like once they've mastered it, they're ready for another challenge. So we need a way to get that off of them. And AI is a great opportunity.
Yeah. And the way that I think about systems, we take a leaf out of Michael Gerber's book, and every business is a school. And the idea is your staff are effectively the students, and your systems are the lessons that you're teaching them. So you take a brand new student that doesn't really know how to do something, you share with them a process that shows them the most likely outcome, or what is most probable going to happen, and have the system outline, if the client selects blue and it's a sunny day and everything falls into place, this is how everything should go smoothly. Anytime it falls out of the system, generally that's when it's escalated to a more senior team member who's got more experience, who knows how to handle the exceptions. So a new person comes in, you use the system to train them up to get them to a certain skill. And then over time, what that enables is the team member to work on exactly what you were saying, is higher and higher value tasks, which are the things where systems aren't in place, where creativity might be needed, where it requires a higher level of problem solving. And that's where the most important work is done, not solving the same problem that you've solved 10 other times before, or 100 other times, and you keep solving the same thing and again and again. It's capture what works, make it repeatable, delegate it down.
Wow. Yeah, that's so good. Okay. So I'm hearing you, and I'm thinking from the perspective of where I was years ago in my business, where I was scrambling, doing everything, and I had people on the team who were doing things and who were helping me, but like we all felt like we were chasing our tails. And how do you even get a foothold when you start talking about we need systems so we can do AI and so you can program the AI? How do we even get a foothold on this?
We go back to basics and we say, what is the business here to do? The business wants to deliver on a promise that it makes to your clients around the delivery of a core product or service. And if you can systemize everything around everything from grabbing the attention of your target audience, selling them, onboarding, delivering that product or service and getting them to come back, and making that work without key person dependency, that's ultimately where you start. And you can go further than that. Like we have an exercise we talked about last time called the critical client flow, and you map what we just talked about at a very high level. And then you can even ask the question, where within the critical client flow is the pain? And you say, oh, I don't like to sell or I don't do a great job of sales because I'm worried if we sell more, it's going to mean more work for me, and I'm already busy. So now I'm going to start sabotaging my sales process and pushing people away because I don't want to let them down. So I'm not selling as hard as I could. So you can kind of start to debug. Well, okay, well, this is a delivery problem. Maybe we lean into the systems around delivery, tighten that up, and then that's going to help you to sell more confidently.
Okay, so first off, that was me years ago. I was sabotaging sales because I had to deliver on those sales and I was so stretched thin already. And I thought, oh my gosh, I really do want to make this sale, but when I do, it's going to trigger this whole workload for me. And so, then the undermining happens. So you're saying, look where the pain point is, and that is where to focus on improving the systems. Like that's the first.
Yeah. Look, there's so many different ways people have tried to solve this. Some people say, buy back your time. Some people say, do the easy tasks first. Some people say, do the hard tasks first. Some people say, do the administrative tasks first. There's infinite number of ways. And the real key is just to get started and to get momentum. I like to relate it back to work on something that is going to positively impact the business for generating money. And a lot of business owners, they haven't had the experience of the business making money without them. Like they're always involved at some point, whether it's marketing, sales, delivery, whatever. So one of the first big breakthroughs that I try and get a business owner is the experience of having their product or service delivered without them involved. Because once you do that, that actually makes them realize this is possible, changes a bit of a paradigm that, hey, this business can work without me. So that's generally why I focus there first.
And I can really relate to that because it does create this tremendous momentum in the business. Like once I experienced that the business could totally function without me, that a sale could happen, a service would be delivered, and money would be collected, and the cycle could start over again. And I didn't have to be anywhere in that process. To me, it felt like we had been pushing this huge snowball, or this tiny snowball, up the hill. And finally we got it up the hill. And then once it took off, it got momentum because then, okay, so, and even the process of systems thinking, like the first time you're doing it, it's very hard to wrap your mind around it. I mean, I remember thinking, I don't know how I do this. I don't know how I do sales. It just happens. I'm in a conversation and I'm dancing in the moment. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it turns out like there is a whole system. So what I shared at the beginning is you blew my mind the last conversation we had years ago when you said, well, you don't have to be the one creating the system. So how do we pull other people into this, and what does that even look like?
Since we've chatted, and I talked about it in the book, but it is clearly my biggest breakthrough and the biggest leverage point to make this happen. And if I look at all of the common elements amongst those that have made this work and those that haven't, the one common element is what we call a systems champion. And it's someone on the team who has capacity, who this becomes their part of their role. Maybe it's an addition to what they're already doing. Maybe it's a new person that you recruit for this role. But it's their job to kind of continually drive it forward because the business owner knows they want this, but systems and processes, they're always important. They're never urgent. And so for a busy business owner, they only get to important and urgent because they're busy business owners, and that's what takes their attention. Yet we need to spend the time on systems which are urgent or important, but not urgent. And having someone constantly move inch by inch, closer and closer, because this does take time. We're changing the culture of the organization where they're going to work with knowledgeable team members to document the process. And so it's that role. And if I was to suggest, like, if we narrow in even more, the systems champions I've seen that are most successful, that change the game for a business owner, generally it's almost like a junior apprentice. Oftentimes they're trained on how to do the technical work, but they don't know how to run a business that delivers the technical work. So it's the junior accountant, the junior lawyer, the junior mechanic, the junior hairdresser, and they've just come out of university and they're hungry and curious and they want to get, into business, and they join your organization, and then you task them with this role to say, I want you to meet with all of the smartest team members in my organization, most knowledgeable, and I want you to capture and learn what it is that they're doing. And I want you to then document that and organize that knowledge in a central location. That idea is an absolute game changer for the business owner that gets it.
Yes. Yes. Well, and for the systems champion too, because
what a gift. Yeah. What a gift to give the systems champion. What a great role.
Yes. And so one of the things that I've seen in our clients' businesses is there's some who, because we in our Better Business, Better Life program, we want the business owner to be successful. We want the business owner to get out of doing the doing. So sometimes they will bring their junior, their right-hand person into our group calls. And that person is sitting there listening. So the business owner is getting the strategy, but that person is taking notes and they're documenting and starting to create those systems. And what I see happen is they get so excited because their life gets easier. They are no longer being caught off guard, that whiplash, like, oh, I thought we had this under control and now here's this other thing coming at us. Like that whiplash stops. Their life at work feels a lot more calm and predictable. And the rest of the team, it seems like it's that momentum that starts to happen, because then the rest of the team who may have resisted getting systems in place around what they do, because, like there's the team members who are like, I don't want to tell you what I do because then I might lose my job and, or whatever. And they see like, oh, these systems make our lives better. And then they get excited and they want to support the systems champion. So it's almost like that systems champion starts to rally the whole team in the business.
Have you ever seen, there's a video on YouTube, and maybe you can link to it in the show notes, of a guy who's dancing at a dance party on the side of a hill? Have you seen that one? And he runs around and it's one guy, and then someone joins him, and then the whole side of the mountain has got hundreds, if not thousands, of people dancing. Like
that is Derek Sivers' How to Start a Movement. That is my favorite ever TEDx talk. So yes, David, I have seen it and I've shared that with our clients, and that's exactly what you're describing the systems champion does. Because what he makes the point in that video is it's not about the lone nut, the shirtless dancing guy.
So the lone nut is the business owner.
Yes.
So the lone nut is the business owner. And yes, the first supporter is the systems champion for building a systems movement in an organization.
Yes. And when you watch the shirtless dancing guy, as soon as the second person starts dancing, it's not about the shirtless dancing guy. He's not like, oh, I'm so great because now somebody else is following me. He starts doing what you do at a dance party. You point to the person who's dancing and who's picking up on things. So the business owner needs to point to that systems champion and say, go, systems champion. And then others start to join in because they get curious. And it's the second person joining and the third person, and then there's a movement. And you call it a culture of systems in the business. So tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so there's actually a tipping point for when this happens. We call it minimum viable systems, which basically means you have if we apply the 80-20 to each department in the business, and we say, what is the 20% of the systems that deliver 80% of the result for that particular department?
That's good.
So it might be 10 or 15 systems in each department. Once that's documented, that's what we call minimum viable systems. And it's the turning point when things really take off, because then systems touch every part of the organization and every team member. And you transform into, this is how we do things here. And the objective here is to build a systems-driven culture, to get everybody on board, for when new people join the dance party, other team members go, oh, this is how we do things here. And that standard is already set. So,
Yes.
and we want to build a systems culture because we know systems-driven businesses, everybody agrees with this, they deliver better outcomes for the clients, for suppliers, for staff, for the business owner. Like, systems-driven businesses deliver better results. So of course you want to build a systems-driven business. It's just kind of like, how do we get there, and how do we get that first movement?
Well, I love the analogy that you shared in the video, and we will link to Derek Cyber's video of how to start a movement in the show notes. We're also going to link to David's previous interview with me on the Profit by Design podcast. I encourage you to listen to it. And, David, I think one of the things that is so special about having you back with us is you wrote this book 4 years ago. You've been out there teaching. You've guided people through all the obstacles and the challenges that come up, and you've got it refined now. You're like, this is the commonality. This is the common link. When people do this, this is what makes it work. And it's the systems champion. And I know for myself, with the How to Hire the Best series, that's the same experience that I've had. Is I've seen it in action so much. I know where the pitfalls are and what's going to work and what's not going to work. So I think it'll be an incredible perspective for people to listen to the previous interview and hear this and hear David's insights. David, as we're going to wrap up. And by the way, we have a very special gift that David is going to share with our Profit designers in just a moment. So stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss this. This is really incredible. But I want to ask you one final question, and that is, if there is one common pitfall after you have the tipping point. So not at the very beginning, like, we know all the things that business owners do around systems and how we mess things up. But as you start to get that momentum, what do you see us business owners doing where we might be undermining ourselves even as the momentum is building?
There's probably 2 or 3 things that happen later in the cycle that maybe are a little bit counterintuitive. So firstly, understanding that systems and building a systems culture, there is no finish line. It is a marathon, not a sprint. And even more than that, I mean, a marathon has an end. Like, the only end really is if you exit your business in whatever form you do. You're and even still, there's no exit, because you're building the culture. You're changing culture. This is how we do things here. McDonald's is still systemizing 60 years later. So, and part of systemization is innovation. So further down the pipe, initially, when you first get started, and I caution, I don't normally say this because I don't want to throw people off until they get to this stage. In the early days, the business owner is typically the worst person to be architecting systems and changing and tweaking. You just want to capture what you're currently doing and make it repeatable. And oftentimes that can get tremendous wins, because otherwise it just is on the shoulders of the business owner. But later on, the business owner typically does their best work when they become a system architect and they start to re-engineer process. And then they can take all of the big ideas that they're seeing out there in the world and moving trends and new opportunities, and they spot that opportunity and they go, oh, that could work well for our business. They reach out and grab it. They install it into the business, engineer and re-engineer things, and then put it back into the machine to go to work that is your business. So effectively, like, and if I try and be the best example of what I teach, when we think about systemization, there's been a huge disruption with AI, and that's exactly what we've been doing with even like our system for creating systems. One of our most central systems in Systemology is how we document process and where it gets saved and things like that. That's been completely turned on its head now, because I'm in a space where I can do some of my best work, which is to go AI is huge here. We can now record a video, transcribe it, load it into ChatGPT, ask it to draft the process, and then we can save that into place. And that's version number 1, which that's the re-engineering. You don't start with re-engineering, though. Re-engineering is typically, for me, the last step in the process. So yeah, I think that's where some people get wrong, is understanding when the business owner should step in and sticking with it long enough to see the reward, because there's also a huge amount of lag time. That's like an exponential curve before this starts to pay off. And most people give up too soon, and then they just go, oh, I tried that. Systems don't work for me. My team don't follow process, which actually does more harm than good, because then they close off and they just think, oh, that's just how it is.
That's such a good point. I think in general, we business owners are guilty of stopping just a few inches from the gold in most things we try. So it's stick with it, be persistent. And if you don't know what you're doing and you're not getting the result that you thought you would get, for goodness sakes, get a coach. Coaches are great, right, David?
Yes.
Get some help. So, David, you reached out to our team not very long ago, and you said something really incredible has happened. I want to share copies of the book Systemology with Tap the Potential clients. So I want to give you a chance to just share a little bit about how that unfolded and what you're doing, because you're in Australia, and it's incredible that you're offering to send Systemology books to clients here in the United States.
So as a special little Christmas gift, as this time of the year, we had I had a partner who was planning on gifting a lot more books to their audience, and they pre-purchased a bunch of books through us. We got them sent out. I've got a warehouse in Australia and in the US, and then they didn't quite have the reach that they thought they would, and we ended up having a truckload of additional books sitting in the warehouse. So I was quite particular about which audiences we should gift this to, because it is just a cost for us to send these out. We'll cover shipping. It's the actual physical book. This is not an ebook or anything like that. If you're in the US or in Australia, we will send you a gift on behalf of Tap the Potential and Sarina, just to give you something to read over the Christmas break and hopefully get you all fired up and ready to build a systems culture in the new year. So we'll make sure that we pop the link in with the show notes. There'll be a limited window from when this airs to when you can claim it. But if you get in within that window, you can grab a free copy. And worst comes to worst, if you're listening to this 2 or 3 years in the future, then just head over to Amazon and you can grab a copy there. It's still worth the investment. But for those listening, I think a nice little free gift coming into Christmas will be well received.
This is so generous of you to do this, David, for our listeners. And I highly encourage you, if you're listening to this, to grab the link from the show notes and go sign up and request your copy of Systemology and read it over the Christmas break. It is going to change what your business is like. So if you think, okay, life is chaotic, my business is chaotic right now, but next year at this time, I want to have some peace, read Systemology and get some systems in place in your business, and it will really transform what your business looks like a year from now. And stick with it. Don't give up. And if you struggle, David's got systemologists who can help you, and we support our clients at Tap the Potential in putting systems in place. So there's lots of support. There's no reason to give up if your effort at putting systems in place is not working. You have help here. So David, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing that mind-blowing insight about AI. That's a big takeaway that I think all of us business owners need to be thinking about and acting on. So thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Good to see you.